My boyfriend abruptly married into a rich family. The reason is that my family is poor and I have many brothers. My mom said it. You have 3 younger brothers. You're just a brother saver. I couldn't help but sneer. My second younger brother is an actor. The third is a financial magnate. And the fourth is a medical standout. Do I really need to support them? I had been in a 3-year relationship with Jushu, but his mother blatantly and covertly sabotaged me, advising a breakup more than 300 times, simply because she looked down on my family's poverty and believed I had 3 younger brothers who would inevitably take money from their family to subsidize mine. Yet, sitting at Jushu's engagement ceremony with his glowing moonlight Li Shu, I can't understand. I don't usually flaunt wealth, but I've never pretended to be poor either. Which of Jushu's eyes saw that the daughter of a servant is richer than me? I was puzzling over this when 2 little girls next to me yelled at their phones, "Lu Ming is coming back to T-City today. Let's go pick him up later." Hearing the familiar name, I instinctively looked at them, though I tried hard to restrain myself. The flushed face and the hands covering the mouth in excitement still exposed my inner joy. "Hey, Lu Ming, what's so great? You pretend to look like a decent guy in front of the cameras, but you have to peel cherries at home. Such a pretentious dick." Okay, by the way, Lu Ming is my second younger brother. This year's newly minted 3. The engagement ceremony of the film Emperor Lu Ming and Li Shu was extremely grand, with many guests from the business world and financial bigwigs. Look, the one Jushu was nodding to and flattering, the financial magnate, is my 3rd younger brother. He's the country's youngest young entrepreneur. Originally, he quit the family business to vent his anger at my father and started his own venture. In just 3 years, he built a commercial empire and became the object of everyone's flattery. Today, I heard that I, being moneyless, got dumped and decided to come over to see which noble household boss was so blind. The result, even his eyes toward Jushu overflowed with disdain, but Jushu didn't notice at all, still enthusiastically chatting away, probably thinking he had finally found a patron who recognized him. I found it funny and decided to join the fun at the premium seats. After tidying my clothes, I raised my glass and walked gracefully over to them. When Jushu saw me, his face turned serious in an instant. Li Shu puffed out her chin with pride. I didn't bother with them and turned to my 3rd brother. The look in his eyes was full of teasing doubt, making me more certain that dating Jushu was something to be ashamed of, so I gave him a calm down look. I pretended to be at ease and said, "Oh, what are you all chatting about? You're so happy." Jushu spoke up before anyone else. "Lulu, what are you doing here?" He frowned, his disdainful gaze seeming to treat my very existence as a stain. "We've broken, get up. Can you please have some dignity and stop clinging to me? Today is the joyous day of my engagement with Brother Shu, and I won't pursue the fact that you slipped in. Leave quickly, someone as poor and shabby as you is not suited to stay here." Jushu hugged Li Shu around the waist and spoke sternly to me. My 3rd brother's eyelids twitched, about to flare up, and I reached out to stop him. Raising my brows, I glanced at Li Shu and said, "Words can't be spoken carelessly. I came in with a proper invitation. What are you barking like a dog for?" With that, I pulled out the invitation in front of Jushu and deliberately flashed the side with my name on it in front of his eyes. Jushu looked incredulous. "Impossible, I never sent you an invitation." I didn't say anything, only smiled and looked at Li Shu. Li Shu bit her lip. Looking as if she were about to cry, she lightly tugged Jushu's sleeve and whispered, "Sorry, Brother Shu, it's me who sent the invitation for my sister." She had a sweet, innocent face, and at this moment her big, round eyes were brimming with tears, evoking extra pity. In a tearful tone, she spoke in grievance, "I think Sister Lulu has accompanied you for so long. In the past few years, I didn't realize my own heart, causing Brother Shu to suffer, and Sister has taken care of you all these years. We finally achieved something true and should properly thank her, so I sent the invitation." As she spoke, tears were already falling with a splashing sound. "Sorry, Brother Shu, did I do something? What's wrong?" Jushu immediately panicked and tried to mollify his newly engaged fiancé. I rolled my eyes so hard they almost hit the ceiling watching this person, so good at acting. Why not become an actor? It's obviously a stroke of good luck this year. You're the one. I didn't want to watch this nauseating Cheong Yarrow drama any longer, so I turned to my 3rd brother and asked, "What were you just talking about?" My third brother remained expressionless, only the twitching of his eyebrows revealed his. He looked so irritated that his eyes reddened, yet he still spoke stiffly. Jushu said his mother has been having some heart trouble lately and wants to ask Lu Jinyu to help take a look, asking me if I have any connections to make an appointment. Lu Jinyu is a nationally renowned cardiology expert. The papers he published previously proposed a completely new approach to treating heart disease, and thus he has gained worldwide renown in the medical community. I raised an eyebrow, glanced at Jushu, who had just coaxed his newly engaged fiancée and was currently snuggling with her, and couldn't help but flash a subtle smile. What a coincidence. Right, Lu Jinyu is my fourth younger brother. I lowered my head and thought that it's time to reconnect with him. Jushu has already pulled Li Shu back to me with a forced smile, as if he had given up on driving me away, perhaps to save face for Li Shu, or perhaps to humiliate me in another way. In any case, he didn't say I should leave again, only snorted with his nostrils, his flair and arrogance. Since Li Shu invited you here, you should stay. The tone was as if he was graciously granting a favor. Anyway, you poor girl probably only have this one chance in your life to witness a noble engagement banquet. From now on, you should go back to taking care of your three younger brothers and be a good brother-follower. He turned to look at me and asked with his eyes what brother-follower meant. I calmly patted his back and looked at Jushu with sympathetic eyes. Whether I'm a brother-follower or not is hard to say, but he is about to be eaten to zero wage, that's for sure. Li Shu, somewhere Jushu couldn't see, looked at me with the victorious and sarcastic gaze of a winner. I couldn't be bothered to respond, plotting how to expose Jushu's inexplicable pseudo-luminary later. My pocket phone suddenly vibrated violently. I jumped in shock, took it out, and saw the family group chat blow up, with red envelopes and transfers flashing across the screen. I hadn't yet read the amount of the previous one when the next wave of red envelopes surged in. The scene left me a bit stunned, and I instinctively looked at my third brother, who lifted his phone, a show-off glint flashing in his eye as if claiming credit. Don't misunderstand us, we're not comforting you, we just think it's huge good news. Okay, thank you. Boss, the brother's affection comes like this. Next time, remember to say something in advance, making me feel like the family has gone bankrupt. But after the shock, more warmth rushed into my heart. The feeling of being adored by my brothers is wonderful at that moment. A sneering cold laugh cut through the air. Mother Ju pinched her waist, her face full of ridicule as she walked toward me. I raised an eyebrow. This is probably what it means to seek one's own death. Oh dear, I was wondering why I suddenly smell poverty. So the pauper has come. She walked up to me, deliberately covering her mouth, pretending to be nauseated. I'm too lazy to roll my eyes. This family is really what pot matches what lid. A normal person would probably not fit in. Lulu, you have such a good mindset. With a senior lady like Li Shu around, you still dare to fawn on my son with your face. She squinted, sizing me up like a product, shaking her head, revealing a hypocritical disgust. Auntie understands. Being able to latch onto my son is indeed the greatest fortune of your life. But there's no way. Li Shu is beautiful, sensible, and from a rich family of heiresses. You'll never catch up to her. Her gaze toward me was mocking. The pride in her tone could not be hidden. Yet she pretended to be understanding. Good child, let go. Auntie has a few young talents to introduce to you. Monthly income 3,000. Perfectly compatible with you. Mother Ju spoke in a strange tone, and Jushu was the first to laugh. He patted his mother's shoulder and exaggeratedly chimed in. Mom, you must keep a tight check on Lulu. She's young and naive. Don't let a fake rich second generation fool her. Hearing Thai couldn't help snickering. My eyes flicked to Li Shu, and I deliberately acted surprised. Oh my. I didn't expect Miss Li to still be a tycoon's daughter. I raised my hand to lightly cover my mouth and spoke with a bit of innocence. After all, even in elite circles, some things are still fake. I'm truly impressed. Li Shu's face suddenly darkened, and her stare turned ferocious toward me. I furrowed my brows in a seemingly harmless smile but was not polite at all. The genuine version of this dress you're wearing, I remember, was bought by the miss of the Lu family. I wonder where yours came from. As soon as the words fell, Ju Shu's and Mother Ju's expressions changed as well. They turned to Li Shu. Li Shu pinched the dress's hem. Her face was pale, but she forcefully maintained her poise. I don't understand what you're saying. This dress was originally mine to buy. But you rarely come into contact with these things. What makes you spread rumors? With that, tears welled up again in her eyes, as if she had suffered a great grievance. Ju Shu and Mother Ju showed a look of sudden understanding and then glared at me angrily. I arched an eyebrow, calmly placed the wine glass into my younger brother's hands, crossed my arms, and lifted my chin, asking, since you say you're a heiress, why don't you specify which family's daughter you are? Li Shu bit her lower lip, looking shy and furious, which only stimulated Ju Shu. He hadn't had time to speak when Ju Shu had already pulled her behind him with one arm and whispered to me, Lulu, that's enough. Is uncle's surname Li? Naturally, she's the daughter of Li Shu, the real estate tycoon Li Shu. Can't you tell? I sneered. Ju Shu, she really dares to say so. Li Shu lowered her head, looking like a wronged socialite who couldn't vent due to her upbringing. But I knew she was just guilty, still the daughter of Li Shu. If she really were, Uncle Li and Aunt Shun would be so angry that they'd reincarnate on the spot 100 times. I curled my lips, nudging my third brother with my elbow and speaking in a sardonic tone. I'm not from a noble family, so I have no say, but President Liu should have a say, right? Hey, President Liu, does the Li family have such a daughter? My third brother, trying hard not to laugh and maintain his cool tyrannical CEO persona, twisted his face terribly. He forced a laugh and said seriously, if I remember correctly, there isn't. The expressions of the three people opposite instantly became extremely ugly. But I wasn't going to stop there, really. Think again. What if you forgot? I teased helpfully. The third brother cooperated by sinking into thought, and after a moment suddenly wore a look of dawning realization, as if he really remembered something. Li Shu's eyes flashed with a glimmer, and she looked at him with hopeful anticipation. Third brother spoke calmly. The Li family truly doesn't have a C. I remember there was a domestically employed woman at their house with the same surname as the child they liked. She seemed to have a child named Shu Shu. He spoke candidly, and his words had always been unchallenged. Li Shu's face turned completely dark. Before anyone could speak, she suddenly broke into loud sobs. Lulu, I know you can't let go of brother Shu, but feelings can't be forced. You can't ruin our happiness just because you love him and can't have him. Her sobbing was ragged and heart-wrenching. Her already endearing face was now veiled in tears, making people feel even more pity for her. Ju Shu instantly lost his temper, shouting at me recklessly, Lulu, I never expected you to be this kind of person. If you're envious, you team up with outsiders to insult her. Your face is truly disgusting. He let go of Li Shu, stepped forward, his eyes bloodshot as he glared at me. Lulu, no matter what dirty tricks you pull, I'll tell you everyone present today is a powerful figure. If you bully Shu Shu again, I guarantee you won't survive in T-City. I looked at his inexplicably confident face and finally couldn't help but laugh. Li Shu was still crying behind Ju Shu. Ju's mother, distressed, hugged her shoulders, and in her gaze there was nothing but repulsion toward me. I was tired of arguing with them, looking at their unwillingness to face reality yet their high and mighty manner. I couldn't help but wonder, if in the future they discover that the so-called elite society never accepted them, how pleasing to the eye would their collapse be. I grew more eager for that day to come, but for now, I decided to start with small things, to let them see my abilities. I tapped the arm of my third younger brother beside me and raised my brows. Isn't it about time you left? My third younger brother looked at me with a meaningful gaze. We exchanged a glance, and, understanding each other without words, we tucked away our tails and smiled at each other. He tidied his clothes, stepped back 2 paces, and deliberately spoke louder. I'm leaving. After finishing, he ignored Ju Shu and Ju Ma's attempts to keep him and strode out of this ridiculous venue. With the third younger brother's departure, those so-called powerful bigwigs in the venue began leaving one after another. Ju Shu had no time to comfort Li Shu. Each time a bigwig left, he bowed and sent them to the door with servile politeness. Watching those people's scornful looks toward Ju Shu, I couldn't help but shake my head at his ignorance. One's vision is ultimately limited. Ju Shu still hasn't realized that these so-called dignitaries, whom he prides himself on, are actually here specifically to curry favor because they heard the third younger brother would appear. He probably still thinks he has entered the upper echelons by riding Li's shoes. Favorable wind, I let out a sigh and could only mutter, serves him right. After all, no matter how splendid the outward packaging, a clown remains a clown. I've had enough of this show today and planned to leave. Mom suddenly stopped me. I scoffed and turned my head to see what she would say. Lulu, I don't care how much you dislike Li Shu, but she is the wife of my Jew family. Today, the slander against her, I won't let go easily. Mom Jew, with Uncle Li in tow, first spit out a brutal warning. It seemed she had made up her mind to cling to the belief that Li Shu really is the Li family's daughter. I gently shook my head and had no intention of forcing someone out of a dream. As for you, you're just a girl from a poor family. Sooner or later you'll have to marry into wealth and raise your 3 brothers with the dowry. Her slender eyes looked at me sharply, her tone full of the acerbic snobbery of a petty bourgeois woman. I advise you not to think of yourself as a miss. Every day, lower yourself a bit sooner, and find a decent man. Maybe he'll give your 3 brothers a bit more dowry. I arched an eyebrow and couldn't help but smile. What you said makes sense. I nodded at Mom Jew in good humor, and she seemed not to have expected my sudden amiability, momentarily choked. I didn't argue further, only smiled slightly at her, then turned and left the venue. To thoroughly destroy a person, the best way is to first prop him up, the higher the better. As for whether the last 4 would leave him disabled or dead, that's none of my concern. I incline my head, lift the corner of my mouth, and elegantly and calmly leave the venue, completely treating those lunch-time words as nothing. After all, I am indeed a genuine grande dame. Just as I pushed the door open, the sight before me made me pause. It's rare for the whole family to be gathered so neatly. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, ready to step inside, but my toe caught on something hard. I discovered a pile of gift boxes scattered on the floor. I understood immediately that these were my family's red envelopes showing me affection, and my heart warmed at the thought. I walked straight to the sofa and sat down. Dad immediately took my hand and spoke sincerely. Lulu, you are the new heir of the Lu group. The 3 younger brothers were no longer the aloof big shots outside. They clapped and cheered in unison. The second brother said with a smile, "Congratulations, big sister, on taking the presidency. I'll post on Weibo to celebrate right away." The third brother asked next, "Where would you like your inauguration ceremony to be held? I'll book you a European castle." The fourth brother spoke seriously, "Lu Jie, don't worry. I'll handle the medical safety at the inauguration site and ensure no one dies." The first 2 were pretty normal, but what on earth is this last one? Wait, since when did I suddenly become the company's heir? I snapped my head toward Dad, raising my voice to ask, "Weren't you supposed to support me for my whole life? Why do I have to work?" Dad looked at me aggrievedly. "Your 3 younger brothers don't need my care. I can't just donate the company, right?" I was suddenly choked. He seemed to have a point. I turned to my 3 impeccably dressed aristocracy brothers, who were blinking their innocent, wide eyes at me in unison. It seems the world where I'm the only useless one has finally arrived. I let out a sigh and resigned myself. "Fine, I'll do it." Dad immediately lit up with a joyful smile, his face practically spelling out long live retirement. I scoffed and asked about the company's operation in recent years, but he shrugged it off. "Well, I've found you an assistant, you can just ask him later." Dad is immersed in the joy of retirement, smiling so broadly that his eyes are barely a sliver. I looked at him in disbelief. What exactly is this assistant's background? Can he have a clear handle on the company operations? You're not even retired yet, and you're so lazy that you can't even bother to pretend. Be careful, I might quit right now. Before I could finish speaking, he already pulled out his phone to call Mom, discussing travel plans. I rubbed my temples in frustration. Who would have thought that while others are eager to get into the Lu family, our own relatives want to dump this hot potato as soon as possible? But there's no escape. After all, there are only a few of us kids in the family. The other 3 are thriving in their own fields, and I'm the one who's idle. So fine, I'll do it. After the deal was sealed that day, Dad immediately posted on social media, announcing that he would hand the company over to his daughter. Because I had rarely made an appearance before, most people only knew of me by name, not by face. Once the news spread, it instantly caused a stir. I'm in the circle, with all sorts of guesses about who exactly is Miss Lu, under everyone's watchful eyes, I quietly and unobtrusively slipped into the upper ranks of the Lu Corporation. Dad still had some conscience. He didn't completely wash his hands of it. He at least introduced me to the senior executives before slowly turning away with his hands behind his back and leaving the company. I sat in the president's office in silence, facing a mountain of Lu Corp's annual operating data from years past. Indeed, every assistant is a lie, only documents bound thicker than the Oxford Dictionary are real. I put on my goggles, brew myself a cup of coffee, take a deep breath, and prepare to start this grand project. Just then, the office door was knocked. I frowned, not answering. Ji Huiyan's handsome face appeared at the door with a smile. Seeing it was him, I frowned with doubt. The childhood sweetheart who, in theory, should be busy at my own company right now. So how could he have come here? I stared at him, my gaze following his steps, clearly conveying my confusion. He remained calm and unconcerned by my scrutiny, strolling up to me and flashing a perfect 8-tooth grin. "Ms. Lu, hello, I am your new assistant Ji Huiyan. At your age and you still play house." I glanced at him with disdain. Ji Huiyan immediately pulled out a contract from his pocket, a document with black on white stating that he is now my work assistant. I half believed and half doubted as I took it, and found that it was a stamped copy of the company's employment contract. I widened my eyes in shock and blurted out, "Did your family go bankrupt?" Ji Huiyan looked at me speechlessly. "Your family is the one that went bankrupt. My family reached the throne of the wealthiest 3 years ago and hasn't fallen since." I thought for a moment. Indeed, on this year's rich list, his family still sits at the top, so it isn't bankrupt. What is he here for? To experience life? Sensing my doubt, Ji Huiyan didn't hide anything and directly said, "Uncle Lu asked me to come help you." He reached out and patted my shoulder, his smile radiant. "I've grown tired of being the richest man. I want to do something fresh. It sounds nice to cultivate a president. You should just follow me." I remained expressionless as his reckless grip slammed me onto the desk. "Fine, I'll admit he's pulled off the act convincingly, though I've been insulted. Thank you, but although it's a bit surprising that Ji Huiyan is my assistant, I still trust his ability. After all, he started helping his father run the company even before finishing college, and the time his family reached the top of the wealth list is exactly the year he took over the company. If you don't cling to such a big boost, you'd be a fool." I decisively accepted him, grinning as I pushed all the documents in front of me toward him. "You read these and summarized them into a PPT for me, clear and detailed." Ji Huiyan raised an eyebrow. "There may be your company's internal secrets in here. Are you sure you want me to see them?" The corner of my mouth stiffened into a smile. I remembered, of course. Why had I forgotten about this? A slight twitch at the corner of my eye as we exchanged looks for a long moment, and I finally sighed with resignation. "So many things are happening. Are you planning for me to go from taking office to retirement in one go?" I slammed my hand on the table and roared, complaining for the 10,000th time about my father's irresponsible indulgence. Ji Huiyan casually pulled over a chair and sat down. Although he had come as an assistant, truthfully, given his demeanor, I couldn't see even a hint of an assistant in him. He didn't respond to my accusation-filled gaze. He reached into a stack of documents, picked and chose, and finally selected a few and stacked them together to push toward me. "Start with these. You should be able to grasp the company's business basics." As he spoke, he placed a few more at the back. "These are second-tier materials. They'll help you understand each department's functions, responsibilities, and management structure. Read them, then go observe each department on site. There shouldn't be much problem with management after that." Finally, he placed the remaining documents in front of himself. "These are not very important superficial materials. I'll make the PPT for you. Hurry and read those few." "What do you think I'm doing?" He arched an eyebrow, watching my half-amused expression. I was gazing at him with bright eyes. This man who sits across from me now, Ji Huiyan, my childhood friend. No, this is clearly my father. I suddenly gripped his hands with both of mine, my eyes welling with emotion. "Brotherin, from now on, you are my real dad." Ji Huiyan flashed a look of disgust, as if he had heard a terrifying story, and yanked his hands away. He reminded me to read with your brain, then picked up the other documents on the table and, without looking back, went to make the PPT. I was moved by Ji Huiyan's actions. To repay his guidance, I worked hard and didn't lift my head from the documents for a full day. When I finally finished reading the last word, I felt as if a drop of enlightenment had poured into me, and I instantly found my direction. Actually, my dad had prepared very detailed materials, but they were too scattered. If you don't know where to start, it's easy to get confused while reading. Ji Huiyan helped me sort out the logic, and after reading in the order he gave, I indeed, as he said, basically grasped the company's operating model. The rest was just putting it into practice. Fortunately, the senior talents cultivated by the company all these years didn't come for nothing, and I still have enough time to get involved in and adapt to the company's work. I stood up and stretched, loosening my joints. Pushing open the door, I saw Ji Huiyan sitting in front of the computer with his back straight, his fingers tapping the keyboard rapidly. Hearing the door, he paused and looked at me, his face softening into a gentle smile. Have you finished reading everything? Teacher Ji put in what a hard day. Let's do the PPT tomorrow. After reading the documents, I was in a good mood, and even my tone of voice became lighter. Ji Huiyan let out a soft laugh and calmly said, the PPT was finished long ago. I summarized the company's development plan for the next 6 months for you. You should study it, and after adding details, show it to me. Am I the boss, or is he the boss? It feels like the roles are a bit misaligned, yet Ji Huiyan didn't give me a chance to refuse. The slender bones of his fingers clicked on the mouse, and with a single ding, there was another file in my inbox about the company's development plan for the next 6 months. Ji Huiyan shut the computer, casually picked up the notebook beside him, and walked over to me with a solemn look to report. Tomorrow's schedule is as follows. In the morning, there are 2 meetings, one with General Manager Ji from Beihua new headquarters and the other with General Manager Ji from Chengshi-ku. At noon, there's a meal with Mr. Zhao from Feichong Technology. In the afternoon, there's an internal valuation meeting about the government bid for a plot 2 weeks from now. His voice was pleasant to listen to. At this moment, he read the schedule without haste or delay, his magnetic voice exuding a refreshing elegance, but I had no heart to admire his tone. Wasn't the workload more than a person could bear? I'd only started yesterday. Where did so many tasks come from? I was about to speak up to protest when Ji Huiyan calmly closed the notebook. By the way, there's a dinner at the Li family is having a celebration tonight for their daughter's return from abroad. I'll go with you later. Remember to make some preparations. I paused, instinctively thinking of that couple, the 2 dogs, Ju Shu and Uncle Li. Would they also be going? While I was mulling over how to make them uncomfortable, Ji Huiyan suddenly spoke. I've also sent you the materials you'll need for tomorrow's work to your email. This is your first time, so I've organized the project highlights for you this time. Just note them down, and make sure to study the operator's thinking in your spare time. The day after tomorrow, you'll be on your own. After saying this, he winked at me and smiled. I'll go start the car now. Damn you, Ju Shu and Uncle Li. Compared to work, they're nothing. Help. That night when I got home, I lay in the study and studied the materials all night, only dozing for 2 hours on the desk in the hazy dawn. Wearing a pair of enormous dark circles, I appeared in the dining room, and my 3rd younger brother nearly dropped his chopsticks when he saw me. Sister, did you go tomb robbing last night? I sat down beside him and looked at him with a ghost-like expression. Work is indeed almost like grave digging. My 3rd younger brother looked at me with pity. What project are you working on? I'll invest. You don't need to work so hard. It'd be nice to have a bossy younger brother, but I refused with great backbone. No, I must make them serve me myself, otherwise, I'd rather not do it. My 3rd brother sighed, shook his head, and didn't persuade me again. I hurriedly finished my meal and went to the company. Ji Huiyan was already waiting in the office. He was wearing a well-tailored suit and holding a few folders in his hand. Indeed, he looked quite like an assistant. How's the preparation? I gave him an okay sign and boasted, who am I? There's definitely no problem. Come on, Secretary Jin, let's go to the meeting. Ji Huiyan smiled wryly and shook his head, following me toward the conference room. Today's work was actually not easy. Whether it was the president of the other company or our company's senior executives, none of them fully acknowledged my abilities. Fortunately, The key points Ji Huan compiled yesterday were indeed useful. Plus, with my years of assisting my dad, I had been exposed to all these things. Finally, the meeting ended smoothly. After the last session, I returned to the office with Ji Huan, flopped onto the sofa, and let out a long sigh. So tired, Ji Huan took a cup of warm water and handed it to me, standing in front of me against the light. His eyes were shining with satisfaction. "You're actually very capable, your vision and thinking are up to par, you just lack some experience, more exposure will do." I took the cup and thanked him, very happy with his recognition. Just that, he hesitated for a moment, and his gaze at me was somewhat subtle. My heart instantly tensed. Did I miss something? You know, men's taste isn't very good after all. He sighed helplessly. Damn it, since I started dating Ju Shu until we broke up, Ji Huan has probably said for the 1000th time that my taste is terrible. Although thinking back now, maybe what he said wasn't wrong. I have no intention of letting him. I gloated. I hummed softly, finished the water in my cup in one gulp, stood up from the sofa, and left with a vague air of swagger. This time, the Li family hosted a banquet to celebrate their only daughter's return from abroad. The true eldest daughter of the Li family is Li Yutian. The two of us aren't exactly bosom friends, but we're fairly close. She studied abroad in the past few years, and we hadn't seen each other. I specifically prepared a gift for this banquet, but after all, it's an occasion arranged by the elders, so Ji Huan and I naturally attended as the younger generation. We entered quietly, and I exchanged a few words with Li Yutian. Then she was hurriedly called away by others. I've always kept a low profile in the aristocratic circles, so not many people at the scene know me. My third younger brother also came to this banquet, and right now he's being engaged in conversations by other bosses. Just like Ji Huan, I looked around, feeling a bit bored, so I simply took a glass of wine and planned to go to the balcony for some peace. But as soon as I started walking over, I heard a sweet and petulant female voice. I paused, my expression turning a bit strange. Could it be that someone dares to make a small move on such an occasion? I was about to turn away when I accidentally bumped into a nearby ornament, and the sound inside instantly disappeared completely. I pursed my lips, ready to apologize to the person who was disturbed inside. Before I could speak, I saw Ju Shu and Uncle Li walking out hand in hand. What a small world. Uncle Li's face was still a bit flushed, and he bowed his head in a somewhat embarrassed way. The moment Ju Shu saw me, his face changed suddenly. The red on his cheeks hadn't faded yet, but it was already replaced by a pale hue. My gaze swept over them. I raised my glass with a faint smile and then turned to leave. "Hold on," Ju Shu called out to me, his voice laced with an uncontrollable rage and embarrassment. I sighed, turned around, folded my arms, and watched him, asking, "Aren't you planning to go somewhere else to continue?" Uncle Li finally looked up, and once he saw it was me, his expression instantly darkened. Ju Shu was both ashamed and furious, cursing me without any logic. "Why won't you stay away from me? To pester me, you even dare to intrude into this wine party." I couldn't help laughing out of anger. What was he babbling about? I mentally ran through the insults, about to open my mouth to teach him a lesson, when a smiling male voice interrupted. "Baby, why did you come here by yourself?" I turned my head and saw Ji Huan walking over with a smile, naturally pulling me into his arms. "Weren't you supposed to stay with me all night? If you're not here, I don't even want to talk to them." His tone carried a hint of grievance, and there seemed to be real coquettishness in his eyes. Although I knew he was only helping me save face with Ju Shu, I still got caught up in the deep affection in his eyes. My heart skipping a beat, I tightly pressed my hand to my chest to steady myself and played along. "I just came out for some air. I'll go back with you now." Ji Huan flashed a satisfied smile, as if he just realized that there were two other people nearby. He asked, "Who are these two?" Ju Shu's expression contorted after he recognized Ji Huan's face. Uncle Li also looked back and forth between me and Ji Huan in disbelief, seemingly unable to understand how I could be so intimate with Ji Huan. I found it funny and deliberately wrapped my arm around Ji Huan's waist, giving the two of them a half-smile, half-mocking look. Ji Huan frowned slightly, pretended to study Ju Shu for a moment, then suddenly seemed to realize, "Lulu, isn't this the substitute you mentioned?" Ju Shu's face darkened, turning an ashen blue as he glared at me. My mouth twitched. Substitute. Ji Huainan, you really know how to play. I held back from exposing him, only using a silent gaze to express you're still the best. Ji Huainan winked at me in a place where others couldn't see. A glint of cunning flashing in his eyes. As expected, he began to recount his accusation. You said you found a substitute for me, so this is what it's like. He first glanced at Ju Shu, then turned to me, his eyes full of grievance. How is he like me? Am I really that bad in your heart? I almost couldn't hold back my laughter. Ju Shu's face could no longer be described as pale, but he couldn't offend Ji Huainan, so he could only clench his fists and glare at me viciously. I covertly rolled my eyes. What a cliché about bullying the weak and fearing the strong. If you've got guts, go confront Ji Huainan. I pretended to be embarrassed and lowered my head, but really I was covering the corners of my mouth curled in a smile. Ji Huainan only now seemed to realize that what he had just said was not right. He looked calmly at Shu Ju, his tone utterly without remorse. I didn't mean anything by it just now. When Lulu confessed to me before, I felt I was too poor to match her, so I refused. I didn't expect she would be heartbroken and end up finding a stand-in. You tell me, what is this? He pretended to shake his head, but it's okay now. I've decided to marry Lulu, and I'll send you an invitation later. Shu Ju dared not utter a word, yet tried to appear magnanimous and congratulate us. My heart leapt with joy, but I could only hold back laughter, feeling miserable. General Ji, despite all that, there is one thing I must remind you of. Shu Ju had held it in for a long time and finally couldn't help speaking, his voice unconsciously tinged with irony. Lulu's family isn't well off, and she isn't an only child. She has 3 younger brothers. Be careful she doesn't become a brother supporting demon, and don't be deceived. Ji Huainan showed a hint of surprise, turning to look at me, puzzled. Are you a brother supporting demon? With only 3 brothers of yours, what use would you have in supporting them? I stifled a laugh, pretending to be self-abased, lowering my head sadly. Shu Zhouyu and Uncle Li were already laughing sarcastically. I used the long hair hanging by my face to shield the sarcasm in my eyes. Let them laugh as long as they can. It's nothing, Lulu. No matter how many brothers you have, I'll accept them. If they're in trouble, they can come to me. Ji Huainan suddenly spoke, his voice full of tenderness and determination. I feigned surprise and looked up at him. In the glance between us, there was the pleasure of a prank. Having succeeded, Shu Ju and Uncle Li's faces were full of disbelief. Seeing this expression of theirs filled me with great delight. To heighten the stimulation for them, I simply leaned on Ji Huainan. His broad, warm chest steadied me, his heartbeat steady and strong within his chest. Shu Ju, I advise you to quit that inexplicable confidence soon, I teased, turning to Uncle Li. When he met my gaze, a flash of nervousness suddenly crossed his face, and his eyes moved away from me. I couldn't help but snicker. If you're so concerned about my family, why not first worry about your own? The Li family has only one daughter, who is currently with General Li and the others in the center of the venue. I don't know which Li family heiress your fiancé is. After saying this, I ignored Shu Ju and Uncle Li's grim faces and grabbed Ji Huaiyan's hand, leaving in high spirits. That day I left early with Ji Huaiyan, and later I heard that Uncle Li and Shu Ju argued in the venue, making a scene so ugly that the Li family's security even escorted them out. The news made me feel physically and mentally refreshed, except that I left too early to witness the farce with my own eyes. But I soon had no time to think about their affairs, because Ji Huainan went crazy. He said he would be a teacher for the cultivation type president, and truly began to act as an assistant. The daily tasks and study assignments he arranged for me were numerous and heavy, yet they were arranged in an extremely reasonable way, making me exhausted to the point of ecstasy, and yet I could complete them all. Under his devilish training, I began to grow rapidly. In just half a year, I not only convinced the company's veteran shareholders, but also led the Lu family to break through a long-standing bottleneck and step onto a new height. By then, my dad could finally retire with complete peace of mind. His resignation ceremony and my inauguration ceremony were held together, almost gathering all the big figures in the business circle. The scene was so spectacular that it could easily outdo Jushu's engagement ceremony by hundreds of streets. Today I will make my formal debut before all the bosses. Starting from this moment, whether we know each other or not, whether we have interacted before or not. Everyone will know that the Liu family's new successor is Lulu. I specifically sent invitations to Jushu's family. Although they postponed their wedding date, they did not dissolve their engagement, which surprised me a little, but it won't stop me from preparing to slap them in the face hard. The scene was very lively. I don't go on stage immediately. I hid backstage with Ji Huainan. Jushu was not far away. Upon seeing so many bigwigs, his eyes brightened. He probably thought he had finally been recognized by the upper society and would soar to great heights. I couldn't help but show a sneering smile and quietly looked forward to his expression later. The ceremony began. Quickly, my dad went on stage first to say a few words, followed by speeches from my three younger brothers, actor Lu Ming, financial tycoon Lu Fujing, and medical luminary Lu Jianyu. With each speaker, the on-site atmosphere gradually built to a climax. Finally, it was my turn to appear. I took a deep breath, and then another deep breath. Ji Huainan shot me a supportive look. I nodded in response, and then, under the watchful eyes of thousands, I gracefully stepped onto the stage. My three good brothers showed great consideration, and together they loudly called my name. Their obedient appearance probably shocked many bigwigs' preconceived impressions of them. I returned a smile to them, suppressing a tinge of nervousness in my heart, and calmly completed my inauguration ceremony. When I stepped off the stage, Jushu suddenly lunged at me as if he had lost his mind, grabbing my arm. His eyes were bloodshot, and his gaze was filled with savagery. Lulu, I'm sorry, let's start over. I love you, I've always loved you. I swept my gaze over him contemptuously. Jumu behind him had collapsed to the ground, with Uncle Lee covering his mouth. Their looks were filled with disbelief. Finally, my eyes landed on Jushu again. The corner of my mouth curved slightly as I whispered, "Do you deserve it?" His expression stiffened, and his face turned pale as he stood there. Dumbfounded, I raised my voice to summon security, saying that someone here was harassing us. The security guards performed their duties conscientiously, respectfully escorting the three of them out. Ji Huaiyan, my dad, and the others immediately surrounded me. The three younger brothers grinned as they offered blessings, and my dad's gaze toward me was full of relief. I spoke a few words to them and then turned my gaze to Ji Huaiyan. He was smiling at me. The unhidden tenderness in his eyes made my heart skip a beat. Taking a deep breath, I raised my eyebrows at him and spoke sincerely. "Thank you, Ji Huaiyan. Without you, there's no way I could have achieved this in such a short time." Ji Huaiyan waved it off casually and then suddenly smiled slyly. "Just words of thanks." I raised an eyebrow, waved my hand grandly, and replied, "What kind of thanks do you want? Tell me directly, and I'll satisfy you." Ji Huaiyan broke into a wide grin, as if he had been waiting for that line for a long time. "Did you just say that? What I said is the truth, no deceit. Then I want to marry into your family." I was taken aback, looking at his sly eyes. I suddenly felt like I was being manipulated, but it wasn't impossible either. "What? Change your mind?" Ji Huaiyan teased when he saw I hadn't committed. Laughing, I returned a pleased smile and replied forthrightly, "Sure, don't regret it. No wonder I said I wanted you to help Lulu back then. And you agreed to be an assistant so readily, so that's what it was." My dad suddenly realized I was about to speak when Ji Huaiyan looked at me warmly, turned to my dad, and calmly called him Uncle. My younger brothers teased with a laugh, "Sis, when should we start calling him brother-in-law?" Ji Huaiyan noticed I was embarrassed, greeted me, and then led me away first. Curious, I asked, "Be honest, when did you start liking me?" "I've liked you for a long time. I planned to propose in person after taking over the company." His eyes and mouth held a smile, and then he added a hint of grievance. "But you told me you have a boyfriend. Who told you I had bad taste before?" "It's okay, as long as my taste is good," he joked half seriously and then suddenly leaned closer. "Baby, before you marry into my family, could you let me show you my thanks first?" I hadn't had time to react before his kiss fell on me, and my heart rate skyrocketed. Fireworks bloomed brightly not far away, and the story reached its ending at this moment. Thank you for reading. The next chapter will be even more exciting.